Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. As many of you may know, if you've been listening to the show for a while, that I am in Georgia, the country of Georgia. And shortly after I got here, I had the opportunity of meeting a couple wonderful women. And I should preface, a couple wonderful women that work in the tourism industry here in Georgia. And one of them is Tamuna Tabidze. She is the director for Magic Roads, Georgia. I'm not sure I'm saying your name completely correctly, so please say it once for our listeners so they can hear it the right way.
Good morning, Jason. It's very much a pleasure to be with you today and happy to meet your listeners. My name is Tamuna Tabidze and I'm running the local travel DMC in Georgia.
It is such a real pleasure to have you. When I first got to Tbilisi, I went up and met with you and Miriam at the office, and then later on, you set up an opportunity for me to go out and visit some of the wine country with one of your drivers, and just had a wonderful time. You guys have been so gracious, and I'd always heard that about Georgia. I said, I'd heard that when you come to Georgia, people are, you're a guest, and they're going to treat you like a gift from God. And I appreciate the way that both of you have helped me experience the country. So thank you for that. And now we get to learn all about you. I know you're excited about this. I can see the look on your face. We're going to do a couple things. Let's do this. I want to give our listeners kind of an idea of what is Magic Roads, Georgia. And so let's do that for a minute or two. And then we're going to dig into your background and your story and your childhood and figure out how you got from where you were to where you are now. So what is Magic Roads, Georgia?
Magic Roads, Georgia is the DMC that is proposing different kind of projects and different kind of tours in Georgia. So for us and for everybody, I think that the tourism is making people happy. So in every minute and every instant, whatever we do, we try to do this inspiration to make our clients and our travelers happy. Traveling around Georgia that has 3,000 years of statehood, rich of history, culture, UNESCO heritage, because we are on crossroads of civilizations. With Magic Roads, Georgia, you will have the opportunity to really deep in and go inside the country, have all these emotional experiences. It will be all curated, tailor-made, specially sought itineraries for each and every client so that they get back to their countries excited, with full of memories, full of emotions, and that each client's expectation met the reality. So I think that this is what Magic is proposing to all their clients, because we're a member of the cluster, let's say, of DMCs throughout the world. We have different offices in some of our destinations like Emirates, Oman, France, Armenia, Egypt. So we share one spirit on all our destinations. And with Magic Roads, Georgia, be sure that you will have a very, really wonderful time in our beautiful country.
Seems like you're very, very clear on what is Magic Roads, Georgia. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do have a couple questions because I suspect maybe our listeners do as well. First of all, for those that are listening that aren't familiar with the term DMC, it comes up quite often on the show, but maybe in your own words, help our listeners kind of understand, what do you mean when you say DMC?
So the DMC is destination management company. So it's fully based on the destination, who is taking care of building different products and proposals for the clients. We get together different products like hotel accommodation, transportation, different visits, activities, performances, or the workshops. So we just pick up all these different items and package them and propose to our clients. So this is a role of DMC, to be to be a mediator between local suppliers and the clients.
Okay, so who are your clients? You mentioned the word we do this for the clients. Who are your clients?
Actually, we are not limited in choosing the different specific segments or specific clients. We are open to host everybody who would like to discover Georgia, because as a country of hospitality, we are welcoming everyone and everybody. So, and it's really our pleasure to share our spirit, our story, lifestyle, because it's not just coming and going through the country, visiting some of the main and major sightseeings. It's really going into the soul of the country, meeting with the local people, going to the families, having these wineries visits, interaction with the local people, just to get to know what the real soul of Georgia. So, and our clients are the ones who come to experience everything. So we have clients worldwide from different countries, from USA, from Canada. We have some clients also from Latin America. Predominantly work with different European countries like Germany, France, Italy, Portugal, Netherlands. Yeah, yeah,
Pretty much
UK.
anyone that wants to come to
Yes,
Georgia. It
yes,
sounds
yes.
like, right? Well, let me ask you specifically when we talk about destination management companies, oftentimes if I ask somebody at a DMC, who are your clients, they're going to say, our clients are primary businesses. We do business to business. We work with travel agents. We work with maybe what would be called an outbound tour operator, in the US or something like that. Maybe someone in the US is advertising trips to the Caucasus and they do a 14-day Caucasus trip, and then they work with a DMC, that's actually in Georgia that to put together everything and manage the trip and actually run the trip. So I'm curious, it sounds like what I hear you saying is that you do stuff like that, or you might work with a business or a tour operator or somebody that's marketing trips in another country, and you all do the things on the ground here. But it sounds like if a couple in Milwaukee, Wisconsin decide they want to go to Georgia, they can go online and they can connect with you directly. Someone on your team here in Georgia is working through all the details and will package that trip directly for an individual couple like that as well. Is that right?
Actually, as I said, we are open to welcome clients from different sources. So we are a destination management company doing inbound business, meaning that we are only welcoming clients to Georgia in our country, and our, let's say, core business is B2B. So meaning that we work with business to business. We work with major tour operators all over the world with the travel agencies. But sometimes it may happen, usually when we have repeated clients, that they traveled to the destination and they want to repeat the trip. They met the guides, they got inspired, and sometimes they get back to us with a specific requirements and, hey, can you help me making sure that we have this kind of experiences in Georgia, because we are repeated customers. We're returning back to have some different kind of trips. Yes, if it happens actually, and if a couple of Mrs. and Mr. Walker would decide to get in touch with us. So we can also help them assisting and building their preferred itinerary. However, we are only taking care of the inbound ground services, meaning that it will be from arrival to departure. So we so we take care of all the arrangements
Once they get there. So you're not dealing with, the
with the
flights
flights
and,
and all
and
the
stuff like
insurance,
that.
with all the, yes, because sometimes the clients are, yeah, I mean the end clients, the final clients, they're very much experienced, a little bit of adventurous. They can take care of their own arrangement. In this cases, yes, but it's very limited usually, and yeah, core business, and or it's B2B. So, and we prefer working with the tour operators because this way the travel arrangements are always smooth, And so what we commit, we comply, and they have also, all the requirements with the client, and they take care of each and every detail before coming to the destination. It means that we guarantee that, so the service level is, really guaranteed what our clients are expecting.
Got it. Got it completely. I think we need to, maybe I should have started with this. And I don't know if it's a sensitive thing or not, but I'll tell you, coming from the US, when I said I was going to Georgia, a lot of people thought I was going to Atlanta, Georgia. And a lot of them are like, Georgia, where is that? What is Georgia? They hadn't heard of it, which to me is surprising. I heard about it a long time ago. But I guess we need to kind of
Introduction.
like an introduction to Georgia. Somebody that's listening to this that's like, wow, I've never heard of this. I don't know where it is. I don't know much about it. Without unloading a bunch of facts and details and stuff like that, what do you tell someone when you meet them at a trade show or something and they're like, where's Georgia?
Yeah. So it's a good question, because the country is really very small, and not everybody really knows it. So it's on the crossroads of two civilizations, Europe and Asia. It's situated in Caucasus. That's a corridor of between Europe and Asia. It's a very small, tiny country, but very ancient, because so we have a statehood for over 3,000 years, and the country is really beautiful. It's very small, 20,000 square meters, but it has a lot. It has mountains, Great Caucasus Mountains, that is the highest range in Europe. So we have mountains more than 5,000 meters. Then we have a lot of different activities. Georgia is the homeland of wine. We've been making wine for 8,000 years, so that's a pretty long story. And we are making still wine with all these traditional methods. So these clay jars and all these experiences are very intimate, and it is really a good inspiration to invite our clients to come and see what's really the patrimony of the country. Then we have a lot of different, Georgia has a lot of different directions, the lowlands, we have a Black Sea, so we have the semi-desert area. So practically coming to Georgia, it would be a constant discovery of landscapes, cultural flavors, because it used to be the meeting point of different civilizations. So you come across with a lot of nationalities, with a lot of confessions. And Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, is also a good example, because when you come here in a very small area, you can discover a lot of different, let's say, flavors. So here we are, a small country in Caucasus, between two civilizations, Europe and Asia.
Let's talk about the countries that actually border it. So maybe somebody can kind of visualize kind of where it is on a map. You mentioned the Black Sea, and you mentioned kind of the crossroads between Asian culture and European culture, but what are some of the other countries that border it?
So we're bordering on the so western part, as I said, we have Black Sea. So we're bordering with Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia.
Okay, so when you mention kind of, now that we've zeroed in on the kind of the location, being bordered with Russia, I think we need to touch on that. Maybe we edit this out later, I don't know, but I want to ask you about kind of geopolitically things that are going on in the world, and what people should know about that, and how that might impact their time in Georgia, because I love it. I've been having a great time. I haven't had any issues at all, but I know that before I came here, I had some people in my life, oh geez, there's a lot of things going on in that part of the world. So what would you like our listeners to know about that?
Actually, yes. Before you come and discover the country, you could have the different expectations and different concerns, especially because we are quite close with Russia. However, fortunately, we have this Great Caucasus Mountains, the big range that, let's say, differentiates and also secures us. And actually, so the situation is quite calm. Nothing is really happening in terms of escalations, or the situation that is happening in some of the areas like Ukraine or also Middle East. Now the world has become a little bit challenging everywhere. But in terms of security, in terms of peace, in terms of everyday life. Everything is quite, let's say, quite secure in Georgia. Yeah, definitely we have quite complicated the diplomatic relationship with Russia because some of the territory is occupied by them. The conflict started back in 19th, but it's a frozen conflict, meaning that so nothing is really happening even in the areas where they have this domination. So just for the travelers who want to come to discover the country, so they can be sure that the country is the country is peaceful, the country is secure, and they can come and discover at their best pace.
Almost never on this show do we talk about things like visas and passports and entry requirements. I mean, that's not generally that big of an issue that we want to chat about. But I do think one of the interesting things about Georgia, and maybe I get this wrong, it's fairly easy to come here. It's not one of those places
Yes,
that you have to jump through a
indeed.
bunch of hoops to get a visa. You can show up. You can stick around a long time as well. So I assume that makes it easy for people that want to come.
Yes, it's very easy to come to Georgia because we have visa-free travel with more than 90 countries. Definitely, USA is one of them. For many countries, they don't even need a passport, so ID card is also sufficient. So coming
I
to
didn't know
Georgia,
that.
coming to Georgia, it's really very easy because, as I said, we are a country of hospitality, and we try to facilitate the process from the entry to departure, the stay for our, let's say, dear guests and dear clients. So when it comes to really formality, you can pick up your backpack, buy a ticket, and come to Georgia because there is no long and complicated
Yeah,
formality to come and discover our
that's what I
country.
did. I mean, it was
Yeah,
simply as
yeah,
easy as I bought a ticket. I showed up and it's okay, you're welcome. And you can stay here for 300. My understanding is I can stay here for 365 days. And then I can maybe go into Turkey for a day and come back in another. I don't know. I don't want
yeah.
to get too involved in that. But I do have a question because, like I said, some places in this part of the world are not so easy. And when recently I'd heard, because I was thinking I wanted to go to Azerbaijan. And then I was told, oh, well, you can't actually drive across the border into Azerbaijan. So you pretty much your only option is to fly. And I don't know if many of your guests are trying to do, these types of trips or whatever, but can you help me understand just your take on why you can't drive into Azerbaijan? Because there was something interesting. I don't know if you want to discuss it or not, but I'm curious, so I'm going to
Yeah,
ask.
no, all the neighbor countries are very interesting because, and we do have a lot of combination trips with neighbor countries, especially Armenia and Azerbaijan, because the Caucasus region is very interesting. And actually, the countries are very small, actually, all the three countries, and they are very different because the Azerbaijan is, let's say, in terms of religion, they are Muslim country. They have a lot of Oriental influence. Armenia is a little bit of mix of different, let's say, different influences, but it's also a very ancient country. So when you come to discover, and many of the times clients are traveling in all the three countries, so they come to see different, let's say, attractions, different sightseeing, different confessions, different nationalities, and they can enjoy in one trip all the different flavors of Caucasus. When it comes to actually border formalities, we have land borders, so between Azerbaijan and Georgia and Armenia. So the crossing the border, it's not very complicated. However, you could imagine that you need to do a passport control. If it is like land transfer, so you need to get off from transport, and you need to do the control and get on the other, let's say, vehicle. So for the travelers who are having these experiences, it's also good to know much in advance because many of the countries who do not have borders now, so for them this experience could be a little bit exotic, let's say. But when people are let's say aware and when they are prepared, actually it's also kind of nice and exotic experience for them. However, there are clients who prefer to have let's say flights between Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Armenia because yeah, so it's let's say in terms of like
So was it what I hear you saying? And is it possible to cross the land border between Georgia and Azerbaijan?
The land border between Georgia and Azerbaijan is open from one side, so clients can come from Azerbaijan to Georgia. It's open only from, let's say, one direction.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we can, and we are running tours when we are collaborating with partner DMCs in neighbor countries. So
Hmm.
the clients can start a tour in Azerbaijan, cross the border to Georgia, then travel around the country, and then continue to Armenia.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense logistically. I was like, that seems interesting. But yeah, start in Azerbaijan and then move on to Georgia, and it sounds
Yeah,
like
yeah.
no big deal. All right, very cool. All right, so it's time. I want to understand how you got into this type of work, because most places in the world, or just most people in the world, don't work in tourism like we do. So it's always kind of
Yes.
interesting to figure out how you got into it. So how far back do we need to go into your child or into your life to kind of understand why you ended up doing this type of
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. And to be honest, so I don't know how it came to me, but my whole, let's say, my whole since I'm adult and since I'm kind of realized person, I've been working in the hospitality and tourism industry, and this is my passion, and I cannot imagine my life without that. And, so to be honest, so when I was a very small child, and it was like I was born actually in Soviet Union, so my
Mhm.
passport, my birth certificate is I come from this passion that actually traveling in different countries, it was a very mysterious, it was very real. Nobody was traveling. And my father, who had the opportunity to travel in different countries in business trips, so sometimes he was coming back with maps of different
Mhm.
countries. Like I
Mhm.
remember, my inspiration was actually one of the first inspirations. It was actually Switzerland and Geneva, because he got back to the country and he brought this map, and he was showing also the photos, and he said that that some people like from France or from Italy, they are coming to spend their like holidays or something. And this was the very first, let's say, fact that I had this interaction that people are going to different countries to have to see, to discover. I was very small kid actually, and this was one of the first inspirations. And then with my, let's say, brother and sister, we started playing, let's say, this we tried to set up kind of travel agency or something, and we started playing with our neighbors, and if we were flying traveling to different countries, and we were just pulling out the suitcase of my father and putting all the stuff. And it was a very fun experience, but it did the inspiration. And then I was also pretty much interested in different languages, because before AI, now with AI, all is really very, you can speak any language, but before you needed to really speak the different languages.
Yeah.
So I started learning different languages like, yeah, so English, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, all this like different stuff, like Russian, definitely, because it was still like ex-Sovietic period in Georgia. And I got curious to get to know their culture, different countries' cultures, so this instruction, and yeah, meeting with different people. So it enriched my knowledge. I grew up so much personally that I decided to dedicate my life to doing this, because for me, it's really making people happy. Because what is tourism? It's not the medical, let's say, research or a supermarket where you need you need to go for sure because you need to feed yourself or need to take medicine, because tourism is a mental health and tourism is a relaxation. Tourism is really to enrich your soul and your emotional, let's say, condition. And if you don't think and if you don't really try to make our clients happy and people happy, so then what's tourism? So for me, it's really making people happy. And then, of course, the country is very small. Nobody knew it. Now it's more or less, known. So, and it was a pleasure to also present the country to other different people. And yes, it's a pleasure for me to propose Georgia, because it's a very small country, but it has a lot.
I
So I'm
it's
proud to be ambassador of the country.
yeah. I and I suspect that if you're here in Georgia representing Georgia, you've got people coming in from other places and they don't really know very much about it. Georgia is, it's not, you don't see as many pictures of Georgia on Instagram as you might of Italy or France or whatever. So I guess where I'm going with this is if somebody goes on vacation to France, they probably have a pretty kind of, I don't know if it's a clear idea, but they kind of have a set of expectations of what France is about. They get to France, yep, it's France. And the people in France are like, okay, another tourist coming to France. And maybe it's not as many surprises, I guess is what I'm saying, where maybe someone comes to Georgia and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was here. And look at this. And isn't this cool? They started, the first place they make wine and they get to learn all these new cool things that maybe they didn't know about, which is probably a lot more exciting for the guides and the tour operators like yourself, right? I'm just guessing. But
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, indeed, indeed, because it's really very admiring for us as well, just to know how people are surprised when they come to Georgia because they don't know the destination and they have, let's say, what they really discovered. They have minimal expectation what they really discovered to our country
Mhm.
because it's a constant, let's say, trip of surprises.
You know
Yeah,
what? It's really
this is what
interesting.
makes Georgia from different countries.
Right, right. And one of the interesting things that has happened since I've been here is I've had a large number of people, I'll meet somebody and they just immediately, like the first question out of their mouth is, how do you like my country? You know, what do you think of my country? And it's really cool because that doesn't happen in a lot of places. I've traveled a lot and every once in a while, it's like somebody might say, do you like it here? What do you think? But here it's like, it seems very specific. How do you like my country? Very, very specific. And I think that's a reflection of kind of the pride.
Because everybody expects that you would like our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
because
maybe if it was
no Georgian, you cannot meet any Georgian who is not in love in the country, who is not patriot, and who is not sure that everybody should like it. Yes, that's why they ask you because they expect that you would say that, yes, of course, I like it.
and then they
Yes.
just smile ear to ear, and it makes it just it's there's this sense of pride that's pretty cool. I do want to go back and dig around a little bit more and kind of that childhood and the Soviet and then the post-Soviet transition because that's a fascinating thing. And just to frame that, I'll earlier I mentioned that I've known about Georgia for a long time. I remember the day that I learned about Georgia. I don't remember exactly what day it was, but I remember the context of the day. I was sitting in a class in Sheridan, Wyoming, where I grew up, and it was a Russian history class. I think it was probably called Soviet history, actually. And it was a semester long course where we learned a lot about the Soviet Union. This was during the Soviet times, back for me, it would have been in the late 80s, so right around that transition time. And my teacher was telling me, we talked about a lot of different things. And one of the things he spoke with us about was the Caucasus region. And he was telling us about Georgia and Azerbaijan and Armenia. And he said, Georgia is very much like Wyoming. They've got these big mountains and they've got these plains and agriculture and this and da 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 da. And the way he described it, it was like it's like Wyoming, in the Soviet Union. It was like, and I was like, wow, that was just fascinating to me. And I remember that day, I said, I'm going there someday. I'm just, for some reason, I was drawn to the region and I've been carrying that around with me for a long time. I have no excuses for why it took me so long. But for me to come here was kind of a big deal. And what's interesting is you and some of your colleagues and some of the people that I've met here in Georgia grew up during that same time. I'm a little older than you, and a lot of people grew up in that same time, but from a totally different perspective. They were on the other side of it. Maybe they were taking classes learning about the US. I don't know. So tell us about that. I'm not going to ask you how old you are. I'm not going to say how old were you when Georgia, any of that stuff, but I would love to hear some of your insights about growing up. So when you're talking, like you said, you're playing like you were a travel agent. Was that a common thing for young kids? Because that does not sound common to me. But like other kids your age, were they also inspired to want to go travel and explore because of the Soviet Union experience, or what do you think? That was a long question.
So actually, yes, I was born in Soviet Union, but fortunately, I did not live long, so I don't really know what they were teaching at school because when I started school, so it was independent Georgia, and I
Hmm.
was really proud. And I don't really remember. The period was really tough and challenging because the transition was quite tough and we had a lot of challenges like economical situation and all the transition between from one perspective to other and just building the country from the scratch. We have a very big support from USA, and actually I still have this small, let's say, cards from USA or US, or that they were sending this first aid or some small presents or something. That was also one of the inspirations because, we knew that there was a country on the other side of the world, very far away, that they knew that Georgia existed and they needed help. And, it's also very human, very human touch for me. That's why, so even though we had a lot of challenges, we had a lot of support from different European countries, because I can't exactly remember it, and I don't want to count each and every country, but I especially remember, for instance, Germany, France, that they were, sending a lot of, yeah, lot of different, let's say, and it was a very touchy moment for us, for children, that's we got to know the countries, because they were also, when they were sending all the small present, they were sending some their flags or maps or some photos, or so we got to know these countries. And yeah, we got inspired that there were all the other countries around the world, that they knew about the country, they knew about Georgia, and the children were sending all this stuff to us. And then actually, to be honest, I don't think a lot of people really thought about traveling, or it wasn't common to play like travel agency. But to be honest, so in 90s, we did not have any other things to do, just our imagination and fantasy, because we didn't have gadgets, we didn't, so it was all the huge time on our disposal to think about different plays and about different activities. So, but yeah, for the Soviet perspectives, it wasn't really common to think about traveling. So because it was not very common for them. And then little by little, just with the hunger, just to open ourselves to the world, to have this interaction, a lot of people got interested in having relationship with different countries worldwide. And I think that you mentioned that not a lot of people are working in tourism. It's true. But I think that the people who work in tourism in Georgia, they are really patriots of the country, and they are really very much inspired in the destination, because the country and tourism had and has quite a lot of challenges. And if you don't love, and if you are not inspired with what you are doing, it's not really possible to work in hospitality, because it's a non-stop, it's constant. You need to be really for the clients, service all the time. Because indeed, so for us, we don't count the statistics, how many clients we had. And yes, we count it for the statistics, how many clients we had, and for the revenue or all the countries. But for each client, this specific trip is a specific
Hmm.
one travel moment. So we cannot really permit ourselves that these expectations, that some client expectations may fail because we were on weekend, or we were celebrating, or we just forgot something. So we don't permit ourselves, because for every client, the trip is a very special moment, and it should be a very special moment for them.
Yeah. Well said. So many things came up as I listened to you, and this is a unique experience for me to have this conversation with you, because I've been here for about 6 weeks now, and and your team has helped me experience some of it, but I've experienced a lot of things on my own. So I'm trying to figure out how to ask some of the questions that have been rolling around in my head, that I know, or maybe some of them come from me being a little naive or culturally trying to figure things out. So we discussed Georgians being hospitable. wanting to share their country. And the way they do it isn't always exactly the same way that maybe people do it in other cultures. So where I'm going with this is I tend to be kind of a little bit, maybe somebody would use the term loud, maybe even obnoxious. I don't know, some stereotypes around maybe Americans. So I walk into a place and I tend to, hey, how's it going? And I'm smiling, Kamajoba, and I'm just like so friendly. And sometimes I get these looks back, like people are like, who are you? Why are you so outgoing? I'm trying to figure out how to ask you why some people here in Georgia don't seem so happy, I guess. I might come back and edit this out, but I really
Yes.
just want to know the answer, especially, you know, it's maybe some of the convenience stores. I did figure out recently, I've been going to the same convenience store for about a week now, and she's starting to warm up to me. She smiled at me yesterday. So help us kind of reconcile hospitable with not necessarily being overly friendly until you get to, what is that? Help me understand all this.
Actually, I don't have an exact philosophy, so why it is happening. To be honest, so though we are very hospitable and each and every client is a special guest for us and we treat them as better as we can, yes, we are not very, let's say, people say that we are not very happy and smiling, let's say, nation. Maybe it comes from the very deep historical perspectives because the Caucasus region and the country, let's say, being very beautiful, and the Caucasus region being a very strategical positioning, let's say, positioned. It was always attractive to different, let's say, different perspectives. And, we always had a lot of the challenges throughout the existence of the country. And, a lot of people were coming here and living, and not everybody was coming with a good intention.
That's a good way to put it. I appreciate
Yes,
that. Yeah.
and we're hospital, but at the same time, we try to be, not too much open, not too much friendly, just to prevent ourselves from, let's say, from the people and from the nationalities who do not have really very good intention to come to our country. And also, yes, the challenges that the country had starting from 90 until the until present. So it really had the influence to really shape the exterior or the interior of Georgians. So this is how we are.
I think I just heard you say centuries of distrust for outsiders because maybe the Mongols or whoever invaded, showed up with smiles on their face in the beginning, and then it was like, oh, okay, so I guess centuries of distrust sometimes still show up in the culture. But what's interesting is, like, I can look at them like, yeah, she doesn't trust me. She doesn't want to get to know me. And I'm saying, like, someone working in a store. I get that. Nobody, I don't know why I would expect that they'd want to get to know me. And I've also had some amazing opportunities with just like my hosts where I've been staying like Airbnbs, that type of thing. And the last place I was at, I showed up and the host seemed kind of just like distant, didn't speak English. And obviously, Gamarjo was like the only thing I can say in Georgian. And it just kind of felt like, okay, this is the typical Georgian. And then within a few days, I'm sitting in their backyard. Um, and he's teaching me how he makes chacha, and his son's there, and we're drinking, and his wife just keeps coming out of the house with a new plate of food for 2 hours we were there, and she just continuously was bringing food out, and they were so incredibly gracious. So that was a good example for me to say, okay, well, they're not necessarily going to start out super, super friendly, unless
Yeah.
maybe they work in tourism. I'm sure the people on your team are the exception for sure. But I think that's why that came up, is not everybody works in tourism, and you kind of have to really like it. You have to
Yes,
really like to
exactly.
smile and be around people in order to do it. Um, let's talk a little bit about your team, because I came in the office. I've actually been in the office a couple times now, and I walk in, they're all just like, oh, hey, smiling, and they just seem so friendly. So how big is the team? Do they all live in Tbilisi? You've got people spread all around. What does that look like?
So the team is around 30 people. And actually, nearly everybody lives in Tbilisi. Actually, we have employees who come from different cities, small cities, or some villages as well. But but Tbilisi is a kind of big cosmopolitan city. Now everybody tends to come to Tbilisi and work here. So though the population of the country is literally around 3 million and a half, less than 4 million, 1.5 lives in Tbilisi. So and if you are running some business that really needs a concentration, to really come and live in Tbilisi. So in this regard, so majority of the employees, even though they may be born in different regions of Georgia, they all live currently in Tbilisi and work here. We have hybrid, let's say, style, so they are not. It's not necessary to come every day to the office, and they can work remote. We give maximum flexibility to the employees because if you want to make people happy, you need to be happy. So if you want to have inspiration, yes, because our clients majorly who are traveling and who are trusting Magic Roads Georgia, they're looking for something very specific experiences because you can build up a tour program with AI and you can even take some of the exams from the published tours and you can take the rental car and travel around the country. So just to go to the main sightseeing, it's not really necessary to have a DMC. You need a DMC if you want to have really a curated travel with a lot of thought, something really tailored for your preferences, your expectations, your expertise, to have all the creative ideas, to have all these special surprises that we are trying to propose to our clients in the wild mountains, some of the tiny small villages, some pop-up, surprises and activities. I'm not confess, all the secrets, let's say, through this podcast, because you need to come. Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
for that, you need to really be concentrated and you need to have the creation. So you need to be creative, you need to have time, and you need to have also capacity to think about all this, all these different creative ideas. And we give maximum flexibility to our employees so that they can have these candid inspirations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I would say that we have some, let's say, departments as a classical, structure of the company, the finance, marketing team, production team, sales. We call it actually business development, so not purely sales, because we don't interact with final clients. So it's mainly B2B, so it's mainly business development. Then we have quality control and reservations, definitely.
So a real
We
team.
have some of our own guides and drivers as well.
The reason I wanted to ask you that is because there's all different sizes and types of businesses out there. You could have you could have in some places a DMC that's almost a one-man show, and he's got some guides and some drivers that he contracts with. And what I was impressed with when I went and visited you, and I asked you some of these same questions the first time we met about the team, was like, it's a full-blown operation. It's not a little fly by night type of thing. I mean, it's something seriously going on there, just from what I saw in the office. And I do want to ask you this: do most of the people working for you? This depends, because maybe you've got a finance person that maybe didn't have any experience in tourism before. I don't know, but I guess the question I wanted to ask you is: do most of the people on your team work their way up? Do they start in tourism early? Do they go to hospitality school and then get an internship and now they're working for you? Or do you have people that, I'm sure you have mixed, but yeah, I'm just curious, what's the path? Somebody that wants to work for you in Tbilisi, what's their path? If somebody young is listening to this right now.
Yes, It's a good question. And as you said, I cannot have just one specific answer because the people who work, for instance, in finances, yes, they come with different backgrounds or in marketing or in, let's say, have also taking care of the CRM, like client database and all these
Hmm.
things. But the people who work in production and in business development, definitely they have experience and background in tourism. So we are specialized in tourism. So my major, so I graduated in tourism management and marketing. And yeah, so the team who is working in our team, they have extensive experience, if not always being, let's say, graduated in tourism, but they conducted different, let's say, courses. Some of them who are dedicated in production, let's say, they have experience of working as ex-guides because it's very essential and it's also very important to have this really in-depth knowledge of the destination. And yes, they started as a guide, they got inspired, and then after some time, they decided to do a little bit different thing in hospitality, and they now they continue to work in production. And yeah, actually, it's like this. Now we have also some of the quite young, newcomers, university students. We have contracts with different major universities of Georgia. We have internship programs, and then the ones who are really very good, we are offering them also contracts. So now we have who are young, inspired, full of energy, motivation. They study at the university and they study here, and then they help us. And then actually we also have couple of students whom we propose also contracts because they seem to be quite
I'm curious. So if you've got maybe an intern that studied hospitality and tourism, they come
Yes,
in, they're
yes, yes, what I mean. So currently we have 4 students, so 4 interns who study hospitality at the universities, and they are doing this internship with us. They study at the university and they do internship. So they study, we teach them what we are doing and then giving some small tasks, but some of them are doing quite well. So we already decided to take with a fixed contract
cool.
the 2 of them because it's also our mission to really help the young people to get inspired with this with the field. And it's one thing just to teach and to learn from the papers from the
Hmm.
university and
Yeah,
have
yeah.
these virtual ideas of the tours and everything. And on the other hand, yes, we have a very strong cooperation with the local universities, and we did have quite successful projects of the internships. Not necessarily everybody's contracted because maybe but the ones who really comply well and they share our spirit, what we have, yes, we propose also a fixed contract. So it was a good opportunity for all of us, let's say.
Yeah. Do you encourage them to spend some time guiding? Is that part of the process, maybe as an intern, is to actually get them guiding, or is that challenging because you already have guides?
Yes,
I
we
mean,
have them. Actually, we have guides. We have our guide certification course, Magic Academy, because it's a little bit spontaneous in Georgia because it's not university level education if you want to become a guide. So there are special courses proposed from different, let's say, private organizations who have experience, and you can conduct the study. You can, pass through the exam, and you will be certified guide. So this is a general procedure. We also have this Magic Academy because if we want to have new guides, let's say, we want to train them with not only with all this theoretical and all the materials and stories and everything, but also the quality, the way how we show our clients to transmit all the inspiration that we have. So it's very important for us to have our own trained guides. So we have this guide preparation course, guides training academy, and yes, our interns have the opportunity to attend this course. But apart
okay,
from that,
cool.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And apart from that, yes, they are also kind of escorting tours with experienced guides. So they are traveling around the country to get to know the country, to assist them, because initially, so we cannot assign them to guide the groups, even though they finish this academy and have good results, because initially you need to have some, let's say, small experience also, kind of assisting or escorting the groups. And yes, in the coming 2 weeks they will be doing another, let's say, another trip around Georgia, being accompanied by experienced guides. So they will be leading groups together, our interns and our experienced guides.
Very cool. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, geez, if I lived in Georgia and I was I shouldn't say younger person, I guess it doesn't matter the age, but if I was living in Georgia wanting to work in this business thing,
maybe we can think about it.
I'd be up at your office.
So the applications will open in November. We will announce in November. We will announce the applications, and the course will start end of November. So maybe you can, think about it.
All right, I'll stick around a little bit. I stick around. Tamuna, this has been a lot of fun. We've covered a lot of stuff, probably a little all over the place because that's the way my mind works, but a fascinating conversation. And I'm curious though, what did I forget to ask you, or what do you wish that I had asked you so we can share it with our listeners before we wrap up?
I think that we pretty much covered, more or less. So we just had a really very pleasant conversation. So for the ones who really would be interested in getting in touch with us, just to give more insight that we have a special department for the corporate business, and we are running a lot of different projects for corporate clients, starting from incentive trips or this awarding, trips, or also conferences or meetings. What comes to my business, let's say, we did not speak about that because, we mainly talked about the clients who would come to inspire the country. But yes, we have a special brand and special department for the corporate travelers, and we are running a lot of different trips.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just like, as you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, Tbilisi or Batumi, the whole country probably is really, really good for the MICE stuff.
Yes.
It's relatively, with the exchange rates, the flights. I mean, you can fly in directly I flew in directly from Paris. You've got nice hotels, nice venues. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm happy you brought that up.
Yes.
Because it seems like a slam dunk. All right. I wasn't trying to get you off your track there. I just MICE. That's brilliant.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that, yeah. The rest, let's say, to be continued.
To be continued. And I suspect that our listeners might see someone else from your team joining us here on the show at some point. We're still kind of in talks on that. So trust we might have more team members joining me on the show. So Tamuna, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Look forward to staying connected and collaborating on some more projects with you in the future. And just thanks for sharing your time with us.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for this great opportunity. Happy to be, today present at your podcast.
And thank you for smiling
with attentively, because it's, we get to know the world and each other while with your podcast. So it's really very inspiring and encouraging.
Well, thank you. I love doing it. And I wanted to acknowledge, thank you for smiling so much during this call. That's it's one of the pleasures of getting to do this. So Tamuna, thank you so much. I'll chat with you soon. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.